Today we're going to be looking at a recent purchase that I made from a coin show. It's going to be a coin collection from Indochina, Annam, and Vietnam. First of all, we're going to take a look at the outside of this book. You can see that it is covered in a shrink wrap. There is nothing on the back. And we just have these words on the front. Although I do like the decorative area we have down the spine. That has kind of a neat look to it. This is apparently something that you would have purchased if you were vacationing in Vietnam. And a street merchant, must have had these for sale somewhere. So as we look at the front of the cover here, the area that we now know as Vietnam, before World War II, was an area controlled by the French, and they called it French Indochina. That makes up today what we would know as Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia. And then Annam was one of the regions that today make up Vietnam, along with Tonkin and Cochin China. And so Annam was the center part of what is today Vietnam. And then I don't know what those characters say, but when I bought this, the dealer wanted $2 for this. And when I picked it up, he said, I don't know why anyone would want to pay $2 for this. And we're going to see some of that when we open up this and take a look on the inside. I will note that this is a guy who, based on a couple of comments from a previous video, people told me, yeah, his stuff was priced a little bit too high. So we'll see if you think this is worth $2 when we open it up. So let us go ahead and do that. There's going to be a lot of coins in here, and a couple of them have come unglued. You can see the spot right here where the coin was glued to the cardboard, and it has come loose. Now, I'm hoping that there's not too much of a glare on this clear plastic, but we're going to take a close look at some of the details of the inside of here, and some of the things on here just starts to get weird. But as we look at the top, Indochina was a France's colony. Assume, and we're going to have to do a lot of assuming in this video. We have, that is how the French spelled Cambodia. I think that's pronounced Cambodge. And then when you get to Laos, they make it like it has an apostrophe, apostrophe S. So it's, Lao apostrophe S. Don't think that's right. Vietnam from 1885 to 1947 in this collection, assume 14 plastres. And so here they're misspelling the currency they had at the time, which was the piastre. But they changed the I to an L, and I looked it up. There's no one that actually spelled it plastre other than here. And then some of the metals that we have is bronze, lead, as in Led Zeppelin, zinc, copper, and nickel are the metals that we're working with. This is going to be the first coin we looked at, the 1 piastre, not plastre, the 1 piastre from 1946 to 1947. If this coin is real and there was some way that I could get it out of here, I would be happy with this whole purchase, because I didn't even know this coin existed until I got this particular set here. Now, with these French Indochina coins, they were called it was a French colony from somewhere in the 1880s up until World War II, and then following World War II, it became the French Union as they tried to reorganize their political boundaries. And so this is the only coin they ever made where the back of it would say the French, or the Federation of Indochina. And so that by itself makes it, I believe it's unique, the only one out of all of their circulating coins. And so for that reason, I wish I could get it out of here. You see it's dated 1947. The catalog number on this one is KM32.2, because there are a couple of versions of it. The the original version had a security reading on the edge, and this one is just reeded. So this is 0.2 version of this one. And if it's real, the very fine version of this coin books for $4. Now the other side, we're going to see there's glue on here that's pretty bad, so I probably couldn't get that off. Now I will point out that when I was looking up this coin in Numista, there were some counterfeits made of this coin that actually significant enough that it gets its own Numista listing on here. So a very good chance of that. Let's move to the coin to the left, the older piastre, which would have been made from 1885 to 1928. I will say that whoever designed the interior here, yes, there were some there were some spelling errors on here, but they at least got a lot of the dates right and the concept of when these countries were around. So this coin is an obvious fake. At least I think it's obvious. But I still wanted to look it up. If this was the real coin, it would have been made out of silver. And it would have been the size of, pretty close to the size of a U.S. silver dollar from that era. Or let's say a British crown. Which means it would have been 90% silver. Would have been exactly 27 grams of silver, which on the day I'm recording this has a melt value of $59. Now, the design of this coin features the seated Marianne, which is the, I guess, the one-person allegorical personification of France. And she's holding I believe that it's called a fasces, right here, that kind of podium right there. If we could see the back of this one, it would say Piastre of Commerce. Now, this coin also in Numista had a section for a fake version of this coin with a comment of it was offered to tourists in many places. The way I could tell for sure that it was a fake was if you look at the date of 1896 on here, the 6 looks really tiny, and so I found a picture of the real coin where the 6 would have been the size of the other numbers that were on here. So to me, that was the biggest clue that it was fake. Since I described the seated Marianne on here, wearing a hat that reminds me of the Statue of Liberty. But let's come back to this one. I should have described this one earlier. We have, again, the bust of Marianne looking towards the right on here. And that's common on a lot of the French Indochina coins. So now let's move to the next row in the coin in the middle. This one is labeled as 10 cents, 1939 to 1941, a coin that would be made out of bronze nickel. But as we look on here, this is an aluminum coin. And their 10-cent coin would have been about the size of a United States dime, and this is a lot larger than that. This is closer to the size of a United States quarter. So this is, assuming it's not a complete forgery, this appears to be a real coin from French Indochina, but the wrong coin for the slot. This one would actually be a, let's take a look. It would be a 20 cents coin. It's dated 1945, made out of aluminum, and its catalog KM29. And I found a small number of these. This would book for about $1 if it wasn't glued in the book. The actual coin here, in 1939, they made the 10 cents out of silver for part of the run. Let's go a coin to the right, and a coin that's labeled as 1 cent from 1940 to 1941. And then the word that's covered up on here is a word for zinc that I've never seen before. It's INZINCE. So it's zinc with IN on the front and E on the back. Apparently that's pronounced inzince. And so I hope that it's not insensitive for me to mispronounce this. But the actual 1 cent coin would have been, for these 2 years, would have been made out of zinc and would have had a hole in it. And so, again, that's not what we have here. Instead, it's another 20 cents coin, Looks very similar to the one to the left, but the copper nickel version there on the right was dated 1939 and surrounded by there's a couple of dots around the date on that one on the right. So since it was a better metal, it was a little bit smaller. So it's not as big as the US quarter, but a little bit smaller than that. And so this coin on the right is catalog KM23A.1. And so the 10s and the 20 cents that would be on this are actually the coins from French Indochina that I find the most often. This coin actually should have appeared in this slot. That's labeled 20 cents, 1939 to 1941 bronze nickel, but that's not a coin. It looks like we've got some kind of just token in here. So I don't know where this came from. That I'm guessing that's a lion, and it's surrounded by 12 stars. So yeah, that's just that's kind of odd. So now we're going to move to the next row, where it shows that we have 3 different slots for a 1 cent coin from 1908 to 1939. And so if you look in the catalog, there should be 3 different versions of this coin based on the 3 different mint marks that were available. You've got the A for Paris mint mark, which you'd find. There's a version that doesn't have a mint mark, and then you have the Thunderbolt mint mark for the Poissy mint. I don't know if that's what they were going for here, but in this case, I believe that is the actual bronze 1 cent coin, but it's also in really rough shape, and so I think it's right because I see the word Republic, and I think I see the word Français there on the right, but you can't see any more of the details of this coin. I asked AI for what a description of this quality would be, and they said it's smashed like a fermented paste. So that is apparently a Vietnamese expression for something as rough shape as this one. If you could see the details, there would be another 2 allegorical females. One's kind of above the hole to the left, and the other one is seated to the right of the hole, and they're both sitting on a pedestal. This coin would be, at least it's the real coin. Let's skip over here, and this one is even worse than the last coin. And so the back of the previous coin did have 4, I guess, Chinese characters around the hole with some words in our alphabet going around it, signifying that it's a 1 cent coin, but I can't really see any details on this at all. But then we move to the one in the middle, and we've got a Soviet 2 kopeck coin, dated 1984. This coin was made from 1961 to 1991, and is catalog number Y127. So now we're going to move to the next row, where we've got 3 different slots for the 5 cent coin from 1923 to 1939. And there are 2 different variations of this particular 5 cent coin. One of them is the thin version and the thick version. So those, not sure why they would have 3 slots on here, but let's go ahead and take a look at this one. This is another coin where it does appear to be correct in here. This one is going to feature, I can't see the date on it, so I don't know if it's the thick or the thin version. But at the top, we have the laureate head looking to the left, and then around the hole, we have a couple of cornucopias. So that is the obverse of this particular coin. We skip over to the right, and so we've got another coin in fairly rough shape. And so there's also this one's dated 1938, and so that is the year that both versions of the coin were made. And so the first version should have been copper nickel. This version, the second version of the coin, was nickel brass, and that doesn't look like either metals on here. So something, it's well worn, but something has happened to it as well. But this one is probably, again, a real coin. The one on the left would have booked for $2, and this one would have booked for 50 cents in this condition. But we've got a wreath going around the hole on the reverse. Then as we move to the coin in the middle, we've got ourselves another token, but this one was at least one that I could identify. Got a date of 2001 in the middle, so we know that this was made since 2001 for it to have 2000 coin on it. It has the word Game Center right across the bottom. And then above the date, kind of hard to read, but it has the letters LAI, LAI. So I guess that's pronounced Lai Lai. That was a department store in Taiwan that closed down about 12 to 13 years ago. Now, I found this coin online, and if they had glued the other side down on here, it had a picture of a clown and some Chinese characters on it. So I think the other side would have looked more legitimate if they'd chosen to go with that route. So now let's go down to the next row. We have a 1/2 cent bronze that was made from 1935 to 1940. It's a little bit well worn, maybe fine, maybe very good condition, but at least I think this one is, again, the real coin. There's a date of 1936 on it. There is a zinc version of this coin, but at least it's legitimate. And so there's not many details to it. You see a large half on the left and then cent on the right. Then we've got the date of 1936 at the bottom, and then just Indochina Française above the hole. But next in this slot for the 5 cent 1943 aluminum, we've got another Soviet coin. This one is so small that it is the 1 kopeck. So again, we can't see the date on it, but it would have been made between 1961 and 1991. So now as we move over to the bottom left coin, it should be another 1/2 cent, just like the one right here, but it isn't. Instead, it's actually something more interesting, in my opinion. So I didn't recognize the design right off, so I looked up the coins or the countries that French Indochina turned into. And there are some similar looking coins out there. For instance, in the late 70s, Kampuchea coins would be almost identical to this design on the reverse, except instead of a star, it would have had a 6-pointed temple. I believe it's their Angkor Wat temple would have appeared instead of the 5-pointed star. Then you pull up coins from Laos, and that one is also a similar design, but it did have a star on it that was a little bit smaller than this one, but it also had the Soviet hammer and sickle on it as well. So a few more design elements. So it turns out that this coin is actually from the socialist North Vietnam, and this coin was, once I figured out what it was, this coin was only made in 1976. And so when you look at the bottom, we have a ribbon, and above the ribbon is a gear, and then we have a wreath going around it. So this one is the design of the socialist North Vietnam of that time. And so this one was an interesting coin with the rice stalks turned into a curved wreath on here. This one in fine condition would have a book value of $4. So this is another one I wish I could actually pull out of here. So now we're going to move to side number 2. And we have coins from Annam. Now, there's 8 coins up here. They all remind me of Chinese cash coins. And as you can tell, I think they intentionally found the worst condition coins that they could possibly find. These 2 look very fake, and then the other 6 looked like they probably were sitting at the bottom of the South China Sea for over a century. So I tried looking up details. This one was the best shape of all of them, and I really just could not make out any details on that one. And as you can see, the corrosion, the just well-worn, the glue, that one's fallen apart. Let's focus on these 2 because, well, to me, they're obviously fake, and they're very thin. At least I can see details on them, and I could find out what they were supposed to be. So one thing that's going to be identical to Chinese coins are the symbol on the right and the left would be identical to Chinese coins. This symbol is called the tong. This symbol is called the bao. And together, those words essentially mean for general currency. But then what always distinguishes them is the character on the top and the bottom represent the ruler. And so best I can tell, these two coins are meant to look identical. And so that's the coin that should appear in this spot. The ruler at the time was Minh Mang on here. And so the dates of 1820 to 1840 are accurate for that particular coin. Now, if you were to look at the back of this coin, there would not be any characters on the back. So the value of this coin, the denomination was called a 1 Phan, Phan, and this would be a replica of catalog KM 182. So now we're going to move to the next section, which is the South Vietnam. At least all these coins are supposed to be South Vietnam from 1953 to 1976. So that one was, I believe it was called Democratic Vietnam, or the Democratic State of South Vietnam. We look at this first coin. It has the 1 Dong coin of 1960. That one is right. This is one of the more common coins that you'll find from Vietnam. This shows the dictator, who is President Ngo Dinh Diem. And then this coin right here is actually a harder coin to find. It's a larger aluminum coin, so they replaced it with the back of this coin. So this is the one that's loose in here, and well, it just disappeared on here, but it has a date of 1960 on it, and 1 Dong, and then a bamboo plant showing up on that coin. So that's the back of this coin. So that one is correct. We move to the next slot, and it says this should be the FAO, the United Nations Organization for Promoting Growing More Food. The 10 Dong from FAO. That's not this, even though it does feature rice on this coin from 1970. The FAO coin would have been from 1974, and I had maybe one of them until a couple of weeks ago. I picked up a mystery lot that had literally 30 or 40 of those in it. It's more of a brass-colored coin, looks very different from this one. But as we compare it to the next coin, we have a coin that looks like it was run over by a motorbike on a gravel road in Vietnam, but it is the other side of it. This one is accurate. It's the 10 Dong of 1970, if that is the date. There are 2 different versions of this coin. The 1970 version is nickel-plated steel. There's an older version going back to 1964 that is copper-nickel, and just by looking on here, I can't really tell them apart, but we're going to see some more of that, the copper-nickel and the nickel-plated steel version. So now we'll move our way down to the 1971 1 Dong. This again features the rice plant. And so this one is another correct coin on here, the 1971 version of the 1 Dong. And then next to it, we have a coin that looks like it was beat up by a sandblaster of some kind. So the 1964 version of the 1 Dong is kind of like what we saw up here with the 10. There are 2 different versions. You've got the this version in 1971 was nickel-plated steel, and the original 1964 version was copper-nickel, but we can't see the date on this one, and it's got some weird toning to it that doesn't make it look like either. But then we move over a couple of slots, and this one is the coin that for sure would fit here. We just don't know the date on this one, but this one is the 1 Dong from 1964 with the rice plant. But it's labeled as the 5 Dong from 1966. So the 5 Dong again features a rice plant on it, but that one has a scalloped edge around it. The 1966 version again would be copper nickel. And then the version that should appear here would be the 5 Dong scalloped edge out of nickel-plated steel. But instead of that, we have ourselves another token. I guess those are Chinese characters surrounding something like a violin or a cello or some stringed instrument. So I couldn't find anything on this one, but that is, don't have a lot to go on here. As we get to the bottom of the right, we have Socialist Republic of Vietnam, or at the time in 1976 would have been North Vietnam. So let's take a look at this coin, the 1 dong from 1976. And this one is the obverse of the coin that we had over here. So that's the reverse, and I could tell because it was the only coin of this design that is that size. So it's the same size as this one. All of the coins on this row, at least the labels, are coins that were only made in 1976, made out of aluminum. This one is so since this one is the 1 dong, the words around the edge here essentially translate to the State Bank of Vietnam. It's catalog KM14. An interesting thing about this one is if you can see the edge on here, there are some stars etched on here. There are a total of 13 stars, 6-pointed stars on there. So part of me thinks that I should rip both this one and the one over here out and then just glue them together and then put that into my collection. I actually had one of these, and I got this coin in a video that's I haven't posted yet, but will be coming up pretty soon. So the first time I'd ever seen this coin was just literally about a month ago in a video that's coming later. Now, there were 4 different coins made by North Vietnam at the time. The smallest one was the 1 hao of 1976. Now, the reverses on all these are going to be the same, and oftentimes you have kind of a cent system where you have 100 of one equals your denomination, but in this case, 10 haos make 1 dong. So this coin, all of these on this row should be made out of aluminum. If I had this, this one does appear to be the right coin, and in very fine condition would book for $2.50. This one is probably the sharpest detail of anything on this row. And then we'll skip over one where the 2 hao would be. We've got ourselves a Japanese 1 yen. This is the easiest coin to find from Japan, so easy that they put them in this particular book. Japan has essentially used the same design of the 1 yen coin since 1955. The actual date on this one is based on the symbol for Emperor Akihito, year number 10. That makes this 1998. If you want to know how I figured that out so quick, I did make a video about how to identify Japanese coins, and so you can do a search for that one. But that is in the spot of the 2 hao, and then we have our final spot we're going to look at is the 5 hao, which the 2 would be bigger than the 1, and then the 5 would be bigger than the 2, but based on the size here, that is identical in size to the 1, and the reverse is identical to the reverse of this one, which appears over here. So we've got ourselves another 1 hao reverse on here. Again, if I could take this out and glue them together, I do not have this coin in my collection, and I wouldn't have had this one or this one either, but I wish I had this one in my collection. So do you think this was worth $2, what I paid for it? As the guy told me, he pretty much told me, I think everything is in here is a fake, but just for the novelty value, I thought it was worth picking this up. But it makes me wonder if I could reclaim anything out of here. And so I'll get your opinion. If you had this, what would you do with it? Would you just keep it as it is? A couple of coins have come loose on here, and just keep it as it is for the novelty value? Or would you try and figure out a way of opening this up, pulling the worthwhile coins out of here, and then figuring out how to get the glue off the back of it? Somewhere I think I heard that acetate is the metal to use on that. These would not be coins that I would try and sell for profit. Instead, they would fill a void in my collection with It'd be a filler coin since it was damaged, and so I don't mind using a chemical to clean glue off of it. But do you think that's worth it? Should I spend my time doing that? If you're interested in buying one of these and you don't find someone at a show selling it for $2, I did find this on eBay. Now, this one came in, of course, this is in like an orange colored album, but I found different albums on eBay that even though they had different fronts, some of them had a drawing of a coin, some of them had these exact same words on it. The inside, at least the labels on the inside, were exactly the same on everything I found on eBay. The difference, however, would be that there were different wrong coins in different spots all through here. The people on eBay, and of course it's eBay, so they're going to have to make some money off of it, so they're going to charge you a little bit more and you have shipping. I saw anywhere from $70 to $100. And so if you spot this on eBay, you must really want it for that price because you're still not getting real coins in most of these slots on here. If all these were real, this coin is $60 at least. And of course, these would probably be worth something if they were real. If I'm going to go into the process of taking this thing apart, I should maybe try cleaning these somehow. What's that? The new Easy Ease cleaner. Maybe I should buy a bottle of that and test it out. Use these as my guinea pig for that, maybe. But there you have it. This is the French Indochina Annam Vietnam set. And so it makes me wonder when this thing was actually produced. The newest verifiable coin in here would have been the 2001 video game token. The newest actual coin was this one from 1998, this Japanese yen, but everything else on here that was real was made in the 1970s or earlier. All right, thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next video where I'll have something maybe a little bit more normal than this. All right, thanks for watching. Bye.